Hey guys, welcome back to the Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story. A family friend, Logan Mitchell, was working at the same manufacturing company, Data Tech Solutions, since he was 26, up until he was 64 when the following events began. I got his permission to share this story, just keeping certain details general and anonymous. The issue started when our country increased the retirement age from 62 to 65 around 2015 when Logan was in his mid-50s, and then again from 65 to 67 in 2022 when he was about 62 to 63. The original owners, the Carson family, ran the business with genuine care for their employees' well-being. From what I've heard, they gave an extra vacation week for every 6 years of service. So on top of the standard 4 weeks, Logan had accumulated an extra 6 weeks by this point. Employees also had access to 2 weeks of remote work when possible, or an extra week off for positions that couldn't work remotely. This meant Logan was getting 11 weeks off annually. As an added benefit, the Carsons allowed employees over 55 to use their vacation time however they wanted. "Take it all at once if you want," Mrs. Carson would say. "Just give us a couple weeks heads up as a courtesy." The best part was being able to save it all for retirement, Logan told me. With the government's ridiculous processing times for retirement paperwork, sometimes taking over 2 years to start proper payments, having that cushion was crucial. During that waiting period, retirees only received minimum payments until the full amount was calculated. But Logan, being a senior engineer with 44 years of experience, was entitled to a substantial retirement package. The Carson family's policy allowed employees to accumulate their time off and use 20-30 weeks at the end while their retirement paperwork was processing. It was a lifesaver for many of us, Logan explained. Then in 2023, the Carsons sold the company to Global Corp, a Coca-Cola subsidiary. They'd seen signs that profits would decline within 6 to 7 years and being in their 70s decided to sell. The new management immediately started dismantling the old policies. In Logan's department, there were 3 senior engineers, him, James Cooper, and Michael Chen. They fired James, and tragically Michael suffered a fatal heart attack the following week. They also cut Logan's salary by 15%. "We're adjusting your compensation to industry standards for a basic engineering position," the new HR director told him coldly. What management didn't realize was that the 3 engineers held patents for specialized machinery, its manufacturing process, and a crucial production component. The Carsons had allowed them to retain these patents when they developed a method that was 30% cheaper and 75% faster. At 64, Logan found himself alone in his position when the company hired 6 new engineers for him to train. Management announced that all accumulated vacation time had to be claimed by year-end. "Claimed, not used, that was their first mistake," Logan chuckled when telling me the story. Having used only 1 to 5 weeks annually for the past decade, Logan had accumulated 87 weeks of time off. On a Friday evening, he submitted his vacation notice for all 87 weeks, starting Monday. "What do you mean you're taking 87 weeks?" the HR director sputtered. "Just using what I'm owed," Logan replied calmly. The following Thursday, CEO Joe Parker discovered 6 new engineers sitting idle with no trainer. The harassment began: phone calls, emails, letters, home visits from junior staff, and finally management showing up at his door. "We could see them coming from my mother-in-law's house across the street," Logan's wife Sarah said. "It was better than television." Production continued automatically, but without maintenance. Problems arose. After 11 weeks, line 1 failed. 2 weeks later, line 2 followed. They had only 4 weeks of backup stock. Just before Christmas, Logan went to clear his locker. CEO Parker cornered him, red-faced and shouting, "You're ending your vacation now!" Logan responded coolly, "I'll fix everything in 3 days if you return those days to my vacation time." Parker reluctantly agreed. Logan restored operations and left basic maintenance instructions before departing again. When another breakdown occurred after New Year's, Parker tried the same deal but then attempted to cancel Logan's remaining 69 weeks, claiming the deadline had passed. The labor board ruled in Logan's favor the next day. "This is the most entertaining case we've had in years," the caseworker told him. Logan negotiated a deal: 3 days of work every 5 weeks. During one of these maintenance visits, now age 66, Parker personally delivered his termination notice, effective after his final vacation period. Thanks for the heads up, Logan said with a knowing smile. I'll just grab my coffee mug on my last day. After receiving a substantial severance package for wrongful termination, Logan executed his master plan. The next day, his lawyer delivered cease and desist letters regarding the patent usage. Did you really think we wouldn't plan for this? He later asked James Cooper, his fired colleague, who had eagerly joined the plan. They had also included Michael Chen's widow, whom Logan had been quietly supporting. The company scrambled to find alternatives. Their competitors' methods would increase costs by 40% and double production time. After 3 weeks of failing to license competitors' technologies, their stock nearly depleted, they came crawling back. Let's discuss terms, Logan said calmly to the desperate board members. The new agreement made him an external contractor, keeping the patents and charging his daily rate as an hourly fee. And here's the best part, Logan told me, grinning. I hired all 6 engineers they'd wanted me to train, doubled their salaries, and now they work for my company, maintaining the equipment they wanted them to learn about anyway. Parker was fired for nearly halting production and the costly mishandling of Logan's situation. At Mr. Carson's funeral in late 2024, employees shared similar stories. 3 other patent holders had executed comparable plans, though none had managed to stretch it out for 2 years while getting paid. Dad would have loved this, Carson's daughter said, wiping away tears of laughter. He always said treating people right was the best business strategy. Mrs. Carson added, Joe, dear, referring to her late husband, would have considered this his greatest legacy, teaching corporations that people aren't just disposable assets. The next one is an entitled People Story. My wife and I bought our dream home in a nice suburban neighborhood about 2 years ago. It's a beautiful colonial-style house with a circular driveway that connects to the main road. The property came with a proper deed showing we own the entire driveway and surrounding land. This detail becomes important later. Everything was peaceful for the first year. We got along fine with most neighbors except for Karen Thompson, the self-appointed homeowner association queen who lived 3 houses down. She was that stereotypical suburban busybody who spent her days policing everyone's grass length and sending passive-aggressive emails about garbage bin placement. The trouble started when Karen's adult daughter moved in with her, bringing along 3 teenage kids. Suddenly, these kids started using our circular driveway as their personal bike track and skateboard park. At first, I didn't mind too much. Kids will be kids, right? But then they started leaving their bikes scattered across our driveway, scratching our cars, and making so much noise that working from home became nearly impossible. I politely asked Karen's daughter to have the kids play elsewhere, explaining that it was becoming a liability issue. She seemed understanding, but Karen immediately inserted herself into the situation. This is a community driveway, she declared, hands on her hips. You can't stop children from playing here. It's discriminatory. Actually, it's my private property, I explained calmly, showing her the property lines on my phone. See, the entire driveway is within our lot, Karen scoffed. Well, it's been used as a cut-through by neighbors for years before you moved in. That makes it a public easement. That wasn't true at all. The previous owners had confirmed no such easement existed. But Karen wouldn't listen to reason. The situation escalated when the kids started inviting their friends over, and suddenly our driveway became the neighborhood hangout spot. One afternoon, I counted 12 teenagers racing their bikes in circles while blasting music from portable speakers. The final straw came when one of them crashed into my wife's car, leaving a nasty dent. I decided enough was enough. After consulting with our homeowner's insurance agent and a property lawyer, we installed security cameras and decided to gate off the driveway. We hired a contractor to install automated gates at both entrance points, with keypads for our family's use. The day the contractors started work, Karen lost her mind. She marched over, phone in hand, already dialing. "You can't block public access!" she shrieked. "I'm calling the police! This is illegal!" I tried explaining once again that it was private property, but she was already speaking to the cop dispatcher, dramatically claiming I was imprisoning the neighborhood and creating a public safety hazard. 20 minutes later, 2 police officers showed up. I had my property deed, survey documents, and lawyer's letter ready to go. The officers reviewed everything and quickly confirmed what I already knew. I had every right to gate off my own driveway. "Ma'am," the older officer said to Karen, "this is private property. The owner can restrict access as they see fit, and more importantly, this isn't an emergency. Please don't call cop for civil matters like this." Karen turned red with rage. "But people have been using this driveway for years. There's precedent." The officer shook his head. That's not how property rights work, and I need to warn you. Misuse of emergency services is a serious offense. Next time, take civil matters to the appropriate authorities. You'd think that would be the end of it, right? Oh no. Karen decided to wage war. She sent multiple complaints to the Homeowner Association Board, which had no jurisdiction over private property modifications. She started a neighborhood petition, which had no legal standing. She even tried to rally other neighbors to protest in front of our house. Nobody showed up. The gates were installed within a week. They were attractive black iron gates that actually enhanced our property's appearance. We programmed codes for our family members and regular visitors like our cleaning service. Peace returned to our driveway. But Karen wasn't done. One evening, I got an alert from our security cameras. Karen was at the gate with a bolt cutter. I immediately called the police while watching the live feed. She actually managed to break the lock on one gate before officers arrived. This time, Karen faced real consequences. The officers arrested her for attempted vandalism and criminal damage to property. The whole scene was captured perfectly on our security cameras, including her shouting about public rights while being handcuffed. The following week, we received a certified letter from Karen's lawyer claiming some nonsense about prescriptive easements and threatening legal action. Our property lawyer responded with a comprehensive letter citing relevant state laws, property codes, and a friendly reminder about the recent vandalism incident. We never heard from her lawyer again. Karen was charged with vandalism, criminal damage to property, and attempted breaking and entering. She ended up accepting a plea deal that included probation, a fine, and mandatory community service. She also had to pay for the damaged gate lock and our legal fees. But the story doesn't end there. Remember that homeowner association position she was so proud of? Well, the homeowner association board called an emergency meeting after her arrest. They voted to remove her as chair of the Architectural Review Committee, citing her recent legal troubles and poor judgment in community matters. The best part? Her daughter was so embarrassed by the whole situation that she moved out with her kids a month later. Apparently, Karen's behavior had been causing problems in their relationship for years, and this was the last straw. These days, our driveway is peaceful and private, the gates work perfectly, and property values in the neighborhood have actually increased since we installed them. Several neighbors have commented on how much nicer the street looks without dozens of teenagers using my driveway as a bike park. Karen still lives down the street, but she crosses to the other side whenever she sees me. She tried to sell her house a few months ago but couldn't find a buyer. Apparently her reputation preceded her, and local real estate agents had started warning potential buyers about the difficult neighbor. Last week I overheard her complaining at the community mailbox about how some people have forgotten the meaning of community. I just smiled and entered my gate code, enjoying the smooth, quiet operation of my very private, very legal driveway gates. The whole experience taught me several valuable lessons. Always keep property documents readily available. Install security cameras before you need them. Build good relationships with local law enforcement. Have a good lawyer on speed dial. Stand your ground when you know you're right. I also learned that sometimes the best revenge is simply following the law and letting entitled people face the natural consequences of their actions. Karen's attempt to control my property ended up costing her. Her position in the homeowner association, her relationship with her daughter, her reputation in the community, and thousands in legal fees and fines. The funniest part came last month when I received an anonymous letter in my mailbox. It was from one of Karen's immediate neighbors, thanking me for standing up to her. Apparently, she'd been terrorizing the neighborhood for years, but nobody had ever successfully challenged her before. My gates had somehow broken her power over the neighborhood. My wife and I still laugh about the time Karen tried to claim our driveway as public property. We've even considered putting up a small decorative sign next to the gate. Private property. No Karens allowed. We haven't done it, of course. We're trying to stay classy about the whole thing. These days, our biggest driveway drama involves deciding whether to add some flowering vines to the gates or keep them classic black iron. It's amazing how peaceful life can be when entitled neighbors learn to respect boundaries, even if they have to learn the hard way. Oh, and those security cameras that caught Karen in the act? They've paid for themselves many times over. Not just from the legal protection they provided, but from the entertainment value of watching her face every time she walks by and glares at our gates. The cameras have caught her taking pictures of our property at least a dozen times since the incident. probably looking for homeowner association violations. But she hasn't found any yet. I've thought about compiling all the security footage of her antics into a greatest hits video, but my wife says that would be petty. She's probably right, but it's tempting. Instead, we just focus on enjoying our private, peaceful driveway and the knowledge that sometimes justice works exactly as it should. The neighbors now joke that our driveway incident was the Great Gate scandal of 2023. It's become something of a legendary tale in our community, shared at block parties and neighborhood gatherings. New residents get told the story as a warning about respecting property rights and not calling cop for non-emergencies. Looking back, I'm actually grateful for the experience in a weird way. It taught me the importance of standing up for your rights even when faced with aggressive opposition. It showed me who my real allies in the neighborhood were, and most importantly, it proved that doing things the right way, legally and professionally, usually works out better than stooping to an aggressor's level. As for Karen, last I heard she started attending town council meetings to complain about erosion of community values and hostile architecture. Nobody takes her seriously anymore, though. It's amazing how quickly a neighborhood bully loses power when someone finally stands up to them. These days, when I punch in my gate code and watch those beautiful iron gates swing open, I feel a special kind of satisfaction. Not just because I won the battle, but because I did it the right way. And every time I hear those gates click shut behind me, it's a reminder that sometimes the best way to deal with entitled people is to simply know your rights and stand your ground. The security cameras are still rolling, though, just in case Karen decides to try her luck with another bolt cutter. The next one is a petty revenge story. This just happened today, and I can't believe I witnessed this. My husband, kids, and I are at a really nice hotel. My family, along with a few other families, were enjoying the pool, hot tub, and separate water slide. Everyone was really well behaved, no kids screaming or acting rowdy. Two boys, around 8 or 9 years old, decided to step into the hot tub. There was no one in there and they were being careful and taking their time to get in. Then came Karen, who had been drying off and putting on her robe. Karen is about 65, 70 years old, short gray hair, tall and thin. Karen goes up to the one boy and starts telling him off and demand that he gets out right away. I didn't hear everything she was saying at first, but it caught my attention when she was wagging a finger at the poor boy who had been minding his own business. It was when I heard her tell him to get out that I looked at my husband across the pool. Without a word exchanged between us, we started heading towards the stairs, the exit the pool. As we are moving, Karen starts in on the other boy who was just sitting on the side with his feet in. Boy leaves, obviously upset, and heads to his mom. Karen moves back to her seat beside the pool and continues to dry off with a smug look on her ugly face. She didn't even want to use the hot tub. Cue pettiness. Without even talking to each other, a bunch of us adults yell out for our kids and we filled the hot tub, including inviting the boys she just bullied back into the hot tub with us. In fact, there were more kids than adults. The adults stared at Karen and basically dared her to say anything. She got really uncomfortable and grabbed her stuff and her husband and left. If they were being rowdy or unsafe, then I can understand wanting to step in, but she was just being nasty to kids for no reason. I got to talk to their mom and them. They were just really sweet boys just trying to enjoy their vacation. I am glad we got them some hot tub time. The next one is a malicious compliance story. I was raised in a devout Roman Catholic family, and my siblings and I attended Catholic-run schools from kindergarten through high school. For this story to make sense, some basic understanding of Catholic doctrine is needed. I'll keep it brief. Catholics practice a sacrament called Holy Confession. The belief is that if you confess your sins to a priest and genuinely repent, the priest has the power to forgive your sins in the eyes of God. Most churches have confessionals for this purpose. Some newer ones are small rooms with chairs, but the classic confessional is like a small closet, with the priest sitting in a separate area next to you, separated by a privacy screen. Confession is usually held after a morning mass service, with one or more priests available in the confessional as congregants go in one by one to make their confessions. Now, the bond of the confessional is absolutely sacrosanct within the church. Think of it like attorney-client privilege. A priest is never supposed to share anything they hear in the confessional or act on that information in any way. There have been priests who were executed by their government for refusing to testify about what they heard in confession. If a priest breaks this bond, he can be defrocked, basically kicked out of the priesthood, and could even face excommunication, kicked out of the church entirely, shunned, rejected by devout Catholics. It's a big deal, so much so that even if a priest later learns the same information through normal means, they're not allowed to act on it if they first learned it in the confessional, lest the person who confessed suspect a break in confidentiality. This last part is important. In my sophomore year, my Catholic high school's administration was taken over by the Salesians, a religious order dedicated to educating children. Our new principal was a Salesian priest, and he began holding daily mass in our campus chapel every morning before class. He really encouraged attendance, but despite his efforts, it never really took off. Most mornings it was just one or two very devout teachers, maybe a particularly religious student or two. But then one Monday morning, right after homeroom, we heard the not uncommon announcement over the PA. Will the following students report to the principal's office immediately? Typically, this happened when students were getting disciplined for weekend shenanigans. At a private school, we could be punished for that sort of thing. Someone would throw a raging kegger, the parents would find out, call the school, and now everyone involved was getting disciplined. That's when I had my epiphany. The following Monday morning, I showed up at morning mass bright and early, first in line to enter the confessional afterward. I sat down with Father Jim and confessed in great detail all the trouble my friends and I had gotten into over the weekend. Where we went, who did what, and to whom. Everything. I think the first time, he was a little surprised. He gave me some acts of contrition to perform, said the absolution, and sent me on my way. I think at first he was even pleased with himself, like I'm really starting to reach these kids. But by mid-semester, I'm pretty sure he'd figured out what I was up to. Every now and then he'd make a sly comment or crack a smile, but he couldn't stop me. You see, by confessing everything we did over the weekend to our principal first thing Monday, I was putting all that information within the bonds of the confessional. Anything I told him there, Father would be unable to act on without risking serious consequences. If he got to his office and found a message from my friend's mom, explaining how she'd caught us drunk as skunks and smoking cigarettes in the alley behind her house, he could thank her for the info, but he couldn't punish us for it. I'd already told him everything in the confessional 20 minutes earlier. This tradition lasted all the way through senior year. It served me and my friends well. Some others must have figured it out over time too, because by graduation, the Monday Mass sessions were well attended, and Father even had to start them earlier to accommodate all the students wanting confession before class. I don't know if it was me or Father who was guilty of malicious compliance here. Did we play him by attending confession like he insisted but for our own selfish reasons? Or did he play us using some 4D chess strategy? After all, in just 2 years he managed to get dozens and dozens of high school students to attend Mass before class and go to confession weekly. Win-win? Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.